So, Jake, despite the mass shooter in Atlanta, in the Atlanta Spa massacre, specifically targeting Asian women, Tucker Carlson did last night what he is paid extremely well to do. He dismissed the possibility that this was a race-based white supremacist attack. And he did so without any remorse whatsoever. And he did so without any consideration for the fact that his own network over the last year has been promoting the bigoted notion of the Chinese China virus.
So the guy's accused of murdering 8 people and all the questions were about race. Okay. But notice, it's the politicians who jump in immediately to divide the country along racial lines.
Now, you have to understand Tucker Carlson does this specifically because his job at Fox News, which he's paid extremely well to do, is to sever and to separate the cause from the effect. The effect is what we saw this week, which is a white Christian man went and targeted Asian spas and killed and massacred 8 people. The cause, at least one of the causes, is Fox News and Tucker Carlson continuously and regularly promoting this xenophobic idea that it came from China and that the reason we're suffering so much in this country, rather, is because of China. And you have to understand, the reason he does these type of things is because he has extremely big shoes, big racist shoes to fill, because he is replacing or has replaced Bill O'Reilly, who made it very clear that this country was built and is supported and sustained on behalf of white Christian men.
Do you understand, and I'm not saying this in a condescending way, you're smarter than I am, sure, but do you understand what the New York Times wants and the far left want? They want to break down the white Christian male power structure of which you're a part, and so am I. And they want to bring in millions of foreign nationals to basically break down the structure that we have.
So that's the hour that Tucker Carlson has replaced. And this is what he does so well. And this is what he makes about $6 to $10 million a year to do. He is there to make sure that he protects that white male Christian power structure. But he gets paid so well because he's able to sow plausible deniability into the minds of all the people who are watching. So despite constantly and consistently forwarding white supremacy on his network, he's always there to make sure that no one ever feels any responsibility for the actions that inevitably come from this white supremacist rhetoric that they push on a regular basis. Now, I want you to watch some of these contradictions. Take a look at this next clip as he uses fear of overpopulation to attack and vilify immigrants.
What's happening on the border tonight will change this country forever. A lot of things won't, this will, and you should know that. Unlike other disasters, mass illegal immigration is permanent. No one ever really gets sent home. Over the past 30 years, the population of the United States has exploded by nearly 100 million people, mostly due to immigration. Were you even aware that that happened? You're not supposed to say a word about it. As every year, the United States gets steadily more jammed with people, and at the same time, more chaotic and less cohesive. As the open spaces shrink, as nature itself recedes in the face of yet another strip mall, or apartment complex, or fast food outlet to serve the new people. This is becoming a crowded country, and crowded countries are ugly, unhappy countries. Why are we letting that happen?
Now wait, so just a few days before that though, Tucker Carlson made it clear that our country isn't particularly overcrowded. Take a listen in.
Well, even with 320 million people living here, this country still is not particularly crowded.
Right, so which is it, Tucker? The fact is the country is not particularly overcrowded. There is a population density map from 2020 that shows that there are entire states that nearly have fewer than 5 people per square mile. That means that there are people who literally have to drive into town over the bridge and through the woods in order to see another human being. But that's besides the point. The point is that he would rather use immigrants and use the fear of overpopulation as a way to attack immigrants than to actually be consistent in his argument. And this is what he does so well. But the question is he worried about overpopulation? Because in this next clip, he seems to be worrying about us not having a big enough population and blaming it on low sperm counts.
So we spent the last year hearing about a health crisis, a pandemic, but there are a lot of health crises. This may be the biggest one. Falling testosterone levels, which have completely reshaped our society, and falling sperm counts, which may make it impossible to continue the human race. Why is this happening? Probably because of chemicals in our environment. According to one scientist, sperm counts in the Western world have dropped 59% between 1973 and 2011. At this pace, sperm counts will reach 0 by 2045. No one talks about this. Everybody should be.
So which is it, Tucker? Is it the fact that you're concerned about overpopulation? Are you concerned about us not populating enough? Or is it rather that you're concerned that we're populating this country with the wrong color of children? And this is why Tucker makes the big bucks. He makes the big bucks because he's simultaneously capable of forwarding white supremacist rhetoric. He's simultaneously capable of sowing the idea of white genocide constantly, every night. He packages up in his nice Brooks Brothers suits, or quite frankly, those suits are probably too cheap for him now because of how much money he makes. Because his particular skill set is to constantly sever the effect from the cause. Because if people ever slowed down long enough to realize the type of white supremacy that is being forwarded over Fox News every single day, they would pause and reflect that they may have some culpability in what happened in Atlanta this week, but not to Tucker Carlson. No, his job, his one job is to use thousands of words every single night that his compatriots actually summarize in just 14 words by saying Tucker Carlson really believes that he must secure the existence of his people and a future for white children. And he's paid millions of dollars to do that every single year. And so of course, he cannot see the racism in the attack that happened this week in Atlanta. Because to paraphrase Upton Sinclair, how could Tucker Carlson possibly see the racism when Fox News pays him millions of dollars to ignore it?
Ben, that is 100% right. And let me give even further context to that. So these are not, first of all, Tucker Carlson is not a dumb guy. So does he know history and context? He does, right? So it's not an accident that they're choosing the words that they're choosing, okay? So, and in fact, and the white supremacists have said that he does the most sophisticated job of pushing out their message. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. That's why I'm more concerned about a guy like Tucker Carlson than I am of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a ham-handed fool, and everybody knows that, right? And whereas Tucker Carlson knows how to be clear enough to his white right-wing racist audience that he's on their side and making the same kind of points that they love to hear against black and brown people, while having plausible deniability. But Tucker, you can play that game with the mainstream media, and a lot of times they'll fall for it, and they go, I mean, context, history, I've never heard of it, but we're not gonna fall for it in our audience, and we're gonna tell everybody, you like speech? We got speech for you, okay? So let's explain. First of all, you have said on occasions, and Lauren Grimm has said the same exact phrase, the immigrants will not replace us. That was written into your script, it was in your prompter, you read it ahead of time, and then you read it on air. You know that the Nazi phrase is the Jews will not replace us. And that's not a phrase that's so common that you say, well, you know, I went to go get a burger. I don't know, I went to go get a pizza. Everybody says I went to go get something, right? No, they will not replace us. It's kind of a weird comment. Why were Jews trying to replace you? It's distinctive. So when you take that out and you put the immigrants will not replace us, your intent is 1000% clear. Okay, but if you say it's one comment, okay. Then he goes on and is on multiple occasions talking about how dirty immigrants are. Now that is the most classic trope against the others, the people that you want to isolate and say are a problem and that we should do something drastic about. Was that used in the Holocaust? Definitely. Do you know that? Of course you know that. Are you using it despite that? Well, that would be an interesting decision that you're making, right? Why are you choosing to say, I'm going to ignore a historical context of these words? So if you said, for example, I hate the corporate donors. So I might be tempted to say that some of them are puppeteers. But I would check myself because I know the history. If you say a Jewish person is a puppeteer, well, that's propaganda that the Nazis used. So you shouldn't use that in the context of a Jewish person if you're being thoughtful because of the history of that phrase. But here, instead of being thoughtful, you're purposely driving it home. They're dirty, they will not replace us. Look at these people that are coming in to replace us. And now you go to overcrowding. Well, does overcrowding have a history? Simple Google search, okay? So you go to Perspectives. This is about, this context about Holocaust. Let me read you just a simple sentence from there. The law against overcrowding in schools and universities passed on April 25th, 1933. It set strict limitations on the number of Jewish students permitted to attend both public and private schools and universities. The justification was overcrowding. We just don't have room for the Jews. So now you have to tell me, Tucker, are you that ignorant that you don't know what right-wing fascists have done for time immemorial to categorize the others as intruders that are here to replace you and that are dirty and leading to overcrowding, which is causing problems for you? And the very next part of that ideology is we should do something about it. So are you ignorant? Are you the most ignorant person on television, or are you purposely racist? Looking forward to your answer.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.